morning. How is everybody today? Good to see you all. So everybody getting ready for Thanksgiving? Did you find your elastic pants so you can eat plenty? Okay, good. So I'm Stephanie Parson. I am a realtor and I am also a senior move manager. And we host these seminars every month of the year, so we will continue into next year. We're been planning on those now, so any ideas you have or feedback, we would certainly appreciate it. There is a feedback sheet. It's the yellow goldenrod one on the table for you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good news, the quilters are not next door today. Okay. The other news is that this library is going to be shutting down for 6 months. So we are looking to move our meetings. We will do the same day and time, okay, third Wednesday of the month, 10 to 11:30. We're looking to move to St. Peter's Cultural Arts Center, which is at the City Hall over there, so not too far away from here. So make sure we have your information so we can keep you apprised of what we have upcoming for next year and make sure that we're getting you to the right location too, okay? All right, well, do we have any new attendees today? Yay, lots of them. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. So just a real quick rundown. So we do our presentation from about 10 to 11:15 at the latest. We try to cut it off then because we do want to allow time for open questions and answers to our experts here today. We have handouts for you, so if you think of a question that you want to ask while we're talking, jot it down and kind of save it for the end, and that way we kind of get all the content in that we were planning on, okay? So we appreciate that. And also, we have a no selling policy, so I just always like to reiterate that. So the presenters we have, or the panelists we have today, they're invited here not to necessarily sell you any product or service or their place. They're here to give you information. Most of them have brought further info. Further info, so we will have some set up for you to pick up afterwards if you so choose. Okay, they'll also be hanging around for a few minutes. If you have a very specific question or want to engage them privately, feel free to do so. And anything else? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little test on our memories today. So everybody up for this? Okay. So here it goes. John and June are going to the school dance with their two friends, Patsy and Loretta. Sorry. Patsy wants to dance to rock and roll swing, but Loretta wants to dance to boogie woogie swing. When they arrive, they find out it is a sock hop. So they kick off their shoes and start dancing. Yay! Okay. Let's test your memory. What's the man's name in the story?
John.
Very good. That's right, John. Where are the friends going? School dance. Okay. What does Patsy want to dance? Okay. Rock and roll swing. What does Loretta want to dance?
Boogie woogie.
Okay. Boogie woogie swing. You guys are doing awesome. What type of dance do they find out it is when they arrive? Sock hop. All right, well, you guys did really good. When Joelle and I were doing this, we failed miserably. So thank you for that. So I hope you enjoyed the exercise. So today we have a great group of panelists with us to talk about the aging brain and resources for caregivers. Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to me.
Sorry.
You're okay, come on in, have a seat. Okay, so panelists, would you mind coming up? And if you want to take a seat, we have 2 microphones to share. Okay, here you go. Oh, gotcha.
Way for us to go. Outside? Yeah. You want us to go this way? Please. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right, so everyone, if you wouldn't mind telling us who you are, what you do, and why you're here today.
Do you want us to start? Sure.
Testing. I'll go first.
Okay.
I'm Caroline. I am a social worker. I am a licensed administrator of assisted livings. I am also a sales director right now. So I've been in long-term care for about over 10 years. Especially memory care is kind of my baby. So love it. And I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, and currently you're at?
Fair Haven Memory Care.
Okay, all right, very good. I'm going to pass that down. Ann?
Hi, my name is Ann Grooms, and I'm a registered nurse. This is my 44th year being a nurse. I have spent my career in geriatrics, mostly home care and hospice. I owned Nurses and Company for 30 years and sold it a couple years ago. And I had opened Seniors and Company Adult Day Care Center 27 years ago to care for dementia-type patients. I have cared for Medicare patients most of my life, and now I am one. So that's what I'm doing here to talk about dementia.
Okay, thank God for this year.
So my name is Jody Finney. I have a doctorate in physical therapy from Washington University and have been practicing for about 16 years at Mercy Hospital in the geriatric space, stroke, spinal cord, brain injury, rehab, acute care. I just recently retired to start our nonprofit, the Caregiver Club, with my cousin Alicia here. And we've been open for about 2 years. So we're excited to be here. Thank you guys for having us.
And I am Alicia Christopher, again, co-founder of the Caregiver Club. And my dad has frontal temporal dementia, and that's kind of how I got into the Caregiver Club with Jody.
My mom just recently passed of Alzheimer's, so she was diagnosed in 2017 and passed just this April. So
Sorry.
we have a big connection on that front.
Yeah, coming from the heart. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for your introduction. So right now we're going to talk about 10 common signs of the aging brain versus possible dementia. It's really hard to tell. And I know at my age, I'm like, am I showing signs of it because I do this, I do that, I misplace things. Sometimes are at a loss for words. So feel free to everyone comment on these, but this is what we have from the Alzheimer's Association. So what would be considered normal? So normal would be sometimes forgetting names or appointments, but then remembering them later. And a concern would be if you forgot recently learned information, important dates, names, or events, and asking for the same information over and over again.
I know with my dad with frontal temporal, we go out to dinner and he says, I'm not paying the check. I didn't eat dinner. I'm pretty sure we ate dinner. But, I just say, okay, I'll pay for it. And he's like, I didn't eat. I'm not paying this bill. Okay. And so we knew that was a red flag.
Okay, yep. Normal. Making occasional errors when balancing the checkbook. So a concern would be challenges in planning or solving problems. So specifically if you're doing your checkbook, what maybe took you, 30 minutes to balance, for those who balance them still, it could be a day or two event. Okay, so I have experienced that with my mother, and so yeah, she used to be like that, and then she's struggling, simple math. So definitely a concern there. Okay. Next one. Occasionally needing help to use the settings on a microwave or to record a television show. And a concern would be difficulty completing familiar tasks at home, at work, or leisure.
Yeah, so my mom, there's a lot of examples for this from my mom, but so she didn't, as her disease progressed, she actually didn't know what the remote was. So she would look at it and, not even, she'd pick it up and be like, what is this? As opposed to, remembering, is it for the living room TV or for the, kitchen TV? And another funny example, because you do have to have humor with all of this, is as you go through this journey, because otherwise sometimes you'd cry forever. So humor is very important from our standpoint, but Mom, I cleared out her bathroom of things that were, potentially harmful, or medications, we hid them so she wasn't taking them at different times, and really just kind of left very minimal things: toothbrush, toothpaste, hairbrush. And I took my mom out to one of my daughter's events. We were watching a gymnastic event, and I picked her up, and I wasn't paying attention because we were kind of moving. Finally, we settled down at the event, and I looked over at my mom, and I was like, Mom, what is on your eyebrows? And I was like, why are they blue? And she's like, I don't know. Why are they? And so I was like, go to the bathroom, try to get that off. And they were dark blue. And so she goes to the bathroom, she's rubbing, she comes back with all bright red eyebrows, sits down, and there's not really off. So I'm like, what did she get into? So when we go back home, long and the short is, I walk back in the bathroom that I just cleared out, and sure enough, there was still a Sharpie with several pens, and she had thought it was her eyebrow pencil. And so, those type of things, and that happen, and you have to laugh.
You gotta laugh. Okay. So normal would be getting confused about the day of the week, but figuring it out later. Do that very consistently myself. A concern would be confusion of time or place. Trouble understanding if it's not happening immediately. Anybody have examples on that?
Well, we all know what that means if, you get a little mixed up sometimes, but there are other causes too, other than disease process, like your blood sugar might be low, you might not be eating correctly, your electrolytes might be off, you might be a little dehydrated or have a bladder infection, so there are other things to look at as well. So don't be automatically jumping to Alzheimer's suddenly. Because we have a tendency to worry about that and think about that. There are lots of other factors.
Sure, yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And I know my mom was recently, she had a UTI, so that definitely adds to a state of confusion and fogginess. So, okay. Sometimes having trouble finding the right word. And a concern would be, we did this one already, did we not? We're having trouble with the slides. Sometimes having trouble finding the right word. A concern would be new problems with words in speaking or writing, or trouble following a conversation.
So, yeah, there we go. My mom, definitely one of her, as continued to progress, even in the earlier stages of her disease, word finding was really difficult for her. So she would, need her purse leaving to go, and this was when she was still living at home, and she'd be walking around the kitchen and just say, I need to get it, I need to get it, I need to get it. She couldn't recall what exactly she was needing to get, and it was her purse. And so it's those things that in their normal daily habit as they're walking, as they're doing, whether they always leave with their purse. My mom always had lipstick with her. So she would touch her lips and be searching, and she knew she wanted to say, I need my lipstick. So you know your loved ones best, and you know their daily habits. And so when you're thinking about that word finding, they're trying to communicate something to you, and if you're like, oh, you always take your purse, no one, you're looking for your purse, we're leaving for lunch. So those type of things, if you take a step back and think about your loved one's normal habits, they are trying to communicate something with you, and you more than likely can solve the problem without increasing their agitation and things like that. When you're offering those suggestional words, like, are you looking for your purse? And then you're like, yes, that's what I'm looking for. That was the word.
Purse.
So, yeah.
Purse, yeah. Okay. All right. Misplacing things from time to time and retracing steps to find them. So that's pretty normal. Does anybody lose their car keys? I mean, I do every day. So, but a concern would be misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace. And Alicia, I think that was something that actually you talked about in your talk I went to yesterday about retracing the steps.
Oh, retracing steps and going back to think about what you did before. My dad had a really hard time with that when he lost something. He couldn't go back and figure out where it was. Whereas I know as in your normal day, you can kind of think, oh wait, I was at the store, did I leave it there, and go from there. But he couldn't figure out how to get back to that step one because of his dementia.
And I think finding things in odd places, right?
Yes. Cookies are always in the dishwasher. I'm not sure if you know that, but if you need a cookie at our house, they're in the dishwasher.
Okay.
We find them between mattresses, in drawers, wrapped up in clothes. Yeah.
Okay. Making a bad decision once in a while, that's normal. A concern would be decreased or poor judgment in regards to money, telemarketers, and grooming.
Yeah. I was ran into Schnucks one day and came out, and my dad was giving somebody his social security number on the phone. And he kept saying, stop, give me my phone back. They need my number. And I hung up, and he got very upset with me. But as you know, nobody's going to ask you for your social security number. So that bad judgment was another big red flag in the beginning for us to say, hold on. And we had to put some things on his phone so that he couldn't talk to people like that.
Some parameters or
Some
blocking.
parameters on the phone,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I think the grooming thing, I know, is pretty common as well. You see that they're not not wanting to bathe as often, not really taking care of themselves.
Our families will come in and say, oh, my loved one takes a shower every single day, but once they come to us, they don't take a shower every day, and they really don't like showers, but they just have a shower. Every day is, I just had a shower.
They think they just had a shower, okay.
Or like you just had a shower.
And that actually is part of the disease process too. There is something within the brain for tipping their head back, and as the disease process continues, that is usually a deterioration somewhere in the mechanisms of the brain where they don't want to tip their head back and have that water. So it is a part of the disease process. That's why it's so prevalent with individuals with dementia, that they don't want to bathe and they don't want to get wet. It's because they actually don't want to. There's something about tipping the head back. So it is a natural, normal process and very common. So you're among good company when you're like your loved one won't shower. Sometimes changing into a bath, my mom and I would struggle significantly. Not only would she forget that she took a shower and say, I took one yesterday, but the actual physicality of doing it increased her agitation significantly. And it was a battle, as I'm sure many of you know. And so it did get better as her disease progressed, but there was a good chunk of several years where it was really hard to get that accomplished.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, just like when we had children, for those of us that have been parents, remember those, sometimes you just have to pick your battles and let the other stuff go. What is most important, right? Okay. So sometimes feeling weary of work, family, and social obligations. And the concern would be withdrawal from work, hobbies, social activities, sports, etc. Yeah.
Yes, actually, you'll see, it almost looks like they're depressed and they just want to sit and watch TV or do nothing. So be, looking for that all the time, and it just makes their dementia worse because there's not getting any stimulation. But a change like that is really important to alert the physician.
Yeah, and I know just specifically for my dad, he loves golf. He played golf. That's all I remember. He loved golf every weekend, and he does not like golf at all. He won't play. He doesn't want to do it at all. So that was a big change for us. We knew that something was up because he's a big golfer and never plays anymore.
I was watching the Today Show this morning. I don't know if anybody saw that, but it was highlighting the correlation between loss of hearing and increased dementia. And I know loss of hearing, you will see people who will, they can't follow the conversation, and therefore they won't participate and communicate, and then they get more isolated, which just exacerbates the whole thing. Okay. Normal would be developing very specific ways of doing things and becoming irritable when a routine is disrupted. So a concern would be mood and personality changed, maybe depressed, fearful, anxious, and easily upset. Angry? Okay. That's another one that comes out. All right. So now we want to kind of see the difference between the aging brain and dementia. So let's talk about dementia specifically. So what is dementia? And Anne, I'm going to let you kind of speak to this specifically. And I know dementia is kind of a big, broad umbrella term.
Yes, dementia is really a medical term for loss of cognitive or memory functioning, and it affects your activities of daily living. The most common cause of that would be Alzheimer's disease, and then that's the gradual onset and the progression of the short-term memory. Secondly, it's frontotemporal dementia, which is seen in younger individuals, younger than 60. And frighteningly enough, we have had probably 5 clients in our daycare under the age of 60 in the last year, in their 50s. And some are even nonverbal, but it will start slowly and progress, usually with personality changes and language changes. And then there's the Lewy body dementia, and that is more movement and like perception dementia, Parkinson's type. That's also gradual onset and progression. Then there's vascular dementia, and that involves people with high risks like blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, hardening of the arteries or atherosclerosis, where you're not getting good blood flow to the brain. So you'll see those types of dementias. One of my physician friends from Washington University did dementia spelled out like D stands for drugs, because there are other causes of dementia. Medications, like if you have surgery, anesthesia can cause some confusion. E, emotional disorders, that could cause dementia. Metabolic disorders like diabetes. Vision, E for eye, ear problems, vision and hearing, that's a problem, could cause some dementia. N for nutritional, if you're not getting good nutrition. And then T, a tumor or trauma in the brain. I for infection of some sort in the body, and then the A for the atherosclerosis complications or some sort of blockage in your blood vessel where you're not getting oxygen to the brain. And those are potentially reversible complications that would create dementia.
So some dementia can actually be reversed.
Some sorts of dementia, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So what's your recommendation on how do you know? How do you find out what's going on?
Yeah.
So go see your primary doctor. Are there specialists to
I
go
would
see?
always start with your primary doctor, but then you want to look at, hopefully they will refer you to a neurologist, and if you can get a good gerontologist, that's key, I think, because they will look at specific things related to your brain.
Yeah. So does anybody have a good gerontologist? Let me know when you find one, because they are so hard to find.
I asked the gerontologist at Washington University, who's a good gerontologist in St. Charles County? And he's like, I don't know. I wish I could tell you. So
There's
we
just-
need them out here.
No, I didn't.
Do you have someone?
You know what question is now, I'm gonna write that down.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, Tifa Snow, she's a very well-known dementia specialist, and she says there are actually 4 truths about dementia. So they are at least 2 parts of your brain are dying. It is not curable or fixable. It's chronic. It results in death. It's terminal. And it keeps changing and getting worse. So in other words, it's progressive. So I guess some of those things that you said can mimic dementia wouldn't be falling into those categories because they are
Tifa
fixable.
Snow is a great researcher, and she generally speaks on Alzheimer's. And what she's talking about, the hippocampus in the brain, where, excuse me, short-term memory and long-term memories there, starts to die off. And so then, in an Alzheimer's patient, got a frog in my throat. Thanks. In an Alzheimer's patient, what will happen is that will start to die off, so the short-term memory will disappear little by little, And so it's real to them that their mother is in the room, and you can't really argue with that because that's what they see. So you have that coupled with the chemical in the brain, acetylcholine, which helps the neurons generate and function, and that starts to disappear. So medications like Aricept and Namenda and things help help with that. But so that's why you see sometimes patients with Alzheimer's, sometimes they're a little better than other times just because of how that's working in their brain at any given time. So that's really what she's speaking to. But with Alzheimer's, it will progress and eventually.
Yeah, and one of the things, like when you're talking about the dementias, so dementias are really signs and symptoms. They're not actually a disease. Alzheimer's is a disease.
Yeah.
So it's an actual disease in the brain. Lewy bodies is a disease in the brain. Dementia are the symptoms that you're seeing. And so that's why, when you talk about medication or an infection, things that could potentially reverse dementia symptoms. So when you talk about medications, you could have a drug interaction. You could be taking a drug from your urologist and your cardiologist and your primary care physician. And some of those drugs can have interactions that, if your doctors don't know all the drugs you're taking, you can have interactions that mimic dementia symptoms. You can have memory loss, you can have short-term memory loss, you can have confusion, you can have irritability, and it actually could be coming from the drug interaction and not so much that your brain has a disease. So there are certain ones that are reversing, they're reversing the symptoms, because dementia is a cumulation of symptoms. So as opposed to what Tifa's talking about here, when you actually have a brain pathology or a brain disease like Alzheimer's, like Lewy body, there are no cure, they are terminal, and they are progressive, versus the other ones where if you have a UTI and you're having confusion and you're presenting like you have dementia, but you really actually have a UTI, you clear up the UTI and those symptoms go away. That makes sense?
Yes, good points. Like I don't know if you've seen people that come out of surgery, maybe a total hip replacement, and they're a little confused from the anesthesiologist. They have a little dementia, but that will clear once they get home and get through their system.
Yeah, even when you have, something is a colon check or something, what they give you wake up and there's some crazy things being said.
A nice nap, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So for clarification purposes, you guys are saying this slide here is really, that is Alzheimer's.
So not necessarily just
necessarily.
Alzheimer's. This is when you're having a disease in the brain. So you're having brain pathology in some regard, because a lot of people don't get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. They just have, they're having a generalized dementia or mild cognitive impairment. There's a lot of terms out there where you're going to your neurologist or you're going to your primary care physician and they can't, maybe you've taken a lot of tests and run MRIs and blood spinal taps, and it doesn't come back showing that you have Alzheimer's, but there's definitely symptoms. So, you don't necessarily have to have a label to have dementia and be headed down these paths.
Okay. So Anne, tell us why it's important it's important to understand the diagnosis, but why it's most important to focus on the individual instead of the diagnosis.
Well, I think every person has different personality traits and ways of life and culture, and one person who may be withdrawn by nature, somebody might think that it's their disease process. So it's to look at the whole individual, the whole family support system is so important so that they know what tests to order, the history, everything about them. It is really a practice of medicine. It's not an exact science. So I just think everybody needs to look at the total picture.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Caroline, can you talk to us about dementia patients? Can they still live with joy and purpose even in the midst of a diagnosis?
Yes, they can. So it's just different. Like she mentioned before, like her parents, I forget if it was mom or dad, changed personality completely. So we do collect a life history, and we like to know about that person, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the same person. So where golfing was super important to that person, if they don't remember that that was important, or if they've withdrawn and truly don't enjoy it anymore, then that's not going to engage them anymore, and that's okay. So what you think your loved one might find joy in or find purpose in, they may not find that anymore. So then we take this whole other approach of what do they enjoy? When do you see them have a spark in them? You know, what are they doing? It might just be eating, or it might be folding laundry, or it might be just taking a walk. And things are just, they become more simple usually. It's definitely not showering. So, I mean, yes, and so what we really kind of focus on with our residents is finding what their purpose is now. We do research the history. We look at what the family has told us, but sometimes it's not an objective opinion, so we kind of have to dig in and just try things and see what we see them react to as something that's purposeful and gives meaning to life. Because can you imagine even able-bodied people with all of their memories, if you don't feel purpose, you're not going to find joy in life, and you're not going to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So, yes, it just might be different.
It might be different. Okay, all right. And I know we're going to talk about some other types of events and outings that can help support that that joy and support caregivers. So there may come a point in time when someone with dementia can't be left home alone, or the caregiver may need a little extra help at an adult daycare. That could be an option, an adult daycare. So, Anne, who do you think who benefits from adult daycare services?
Anybody for adult daycare who has some mild cognitive impairment. Adult daycare is a medical and a social model that's licensed by the state. If you have cognitive impairment, I think I'd always recommend the medical model for sure to attend to. But also Parkinson's patients that have strokes, and anybody that's isolated in their home, living alone, perhaps lost a spouse or moved in with their kids, and it's a new environment for them because it's a very active group.
Mm-hmm. It's an active group.
Very active.
Okay, all right. So can you talk more about, what you guys do in the daycare, and, how you individualize people? I know there's group activities, but what do you do specifically to get to know individuals there?
When somebody comes in, we do an assessment and meet with the family, evaluate the client. We get physician's orders, so we know all about the patient. And also, they fill out a life story, which I think we're going to talk about later. But we do have, talk about that now.
Sure, that's fine. Yep.
So a life story is information that kind of describes how they grew up, where they're from, what they did for a career, what are their favorite memories, their holidays, their children, just so we can have conversations with them. And it's familiar, so they have more of a trusting environment around them. And I had actually used that. My father had Alzheimer's for 8 years and lived in Arizona, so I was back and forth. And when he was in a facility, I filled out a life story and I put it on his wall in his room, so people could come in and know, about him. And it was so helpful. But it helps familiarize and helps us develop our plan of care around that person. So we start our day with like a coffee club, and all the guys sit on one side of the room and all the girls sit on the other side of the room, just like in middle school. And they have a continental breakfast and coffee. And then about 10 o'clock we have a cognitive stimulation therapy group.
What is that? What is CST?
CST, actually, we do it a little different. It is actually a program to help memory without medication, and it's a great program. St. Louis University Hospitals developed a wonderful program for it. Like, it's twice a week, usually 45 minutes, small group, and it's 7 weeks covered by Medicare Part B. It's an evaluation from a social worker or an occupational therapist to begin, and then as the end, so that it gets billed appropriately. And they do like several activities of reminiscing and some physical activities, memory games, just different things. So we do that every morning, only in a larger group, and we just kind of follow the routine of like what day it is, what time it is, what's temperature outside, you know, what's the season. We have a group name, we have a group song, and everybody introduces themselves so people are comfortable in the group. And we've really noticed it's become a big family. You know, they joke together
And one of the things I think that you guys do when I visited there is you let them name their group.
yes,
Come
have a
up
group
with their
name.
songs so they,
And the song.
so they all feel like they're involved and
Yes,
part of
a big
it.
part of it.
Yeah, okay. And so you guys follow, you do some CST programs then?
Right, we just don't bill for it.
Okay, you don't bill for it?
No.
It's just part of the normal
Yes.
tuition? Okay, awesome. So do you see improvement in memory or communication from cognitive
Yes,
stimulation
absolutely.
therapy?
It's amazing, and I mean, we've had people that are nonverbal that will start singing. It's amazing what will come out of their brain. You just never know. It's just great for them.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any experience or thoughts on CST?
No, we Memory Keepers is another one that does CST type therapy that is, you know, they can do virtual sessions or in-person sessions. So it's again, it's like an hour long, but it's not a full daycare type of situation. And they have groups all over. I don't know if St. Louis based that does CST, but it came from the UK. It is a very evidence-based practice. It has a lot of scientific research behind. It's really meant for those early stages of memory impairment. So your early to kind of early middle stages of memory impairment, they have to be able to kind of engage and communicate, especially if they're not in a setting that's more of an adult daycare situation. You know, if you're at home, they need to be on the earlier side to be really effective.
Like a lot of memory things, like words and a feather stick together, you know, things, and then they'll answer. You know, just fun things, real lighthearted. So after CST, they all move to the center of the room, and we do chair exercises with a noodle, and that lasts 30 to 40 minutes. And after that, they have a little rest period where we turn down the lights and have a meditation before lunch. And they can, like, snooze off a little bit if they want. And then at 12:30, we serve lunch. And then we have an afternoon activity that is pretty competitive. They do all sorts of things. They play putt-putt, they play cornhole, they play beach volleyball. They just have done so many different things. I can't even name them. We have pet therapy that comes in. We have music therapy. We have actually students from Sacred Heart Academy come once a month and do a program with the adults. We have community college students that come from the Occupational Therapy Assistance Program, and we have Maryville Occupational Therapy students that come. So
you have younger students that are
Yes.
entering into that field.
And we have a library lady that comes, and she does a program with them once a month on some topic that's really fun. So there's lots of things.
Yeah.
And then after that, we have an afternoon snack. And then we usually end our day with either trivia or we play, we have balloons, and we have like these big plastic fly swatters, and they do balloon volley, which is really exercise. Or do just some sort of trivia. It's fun.
Yeah, it sounds like
Very
there's a lot of
active.
different
Keeps people moving on.
activities going on. So
We do have a bed if someone gets tired, and we have recliners.
So what about medications?
We have a nurse there who provides medications with the doctor's orders.
Okay, all right. That's awesome. So a nurse there.
Right, we
Full-time?
staff with nursing, LPNs, RN, and we have CODAs, Certified Occupational Therapy Assistants. So all of our staff are professionals. So,
What might be some of the things that would prevent someone from being able to put their loved one, enroll them in an adult daycare program?
somebody with very aggressive behaviors, that we can't control with medication, or extreme anxiety where they have elopement, which means they try and escape all the time. Very difficult to control. We try and work with the families and the physicians to try and medicate, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Other than that, somebody that just can't participate at all and has to be fed, that just aren't a fit for our program because we're so active.
Okay, all right. And transportation, that is a responsibility of the family?
We contract with a transportation company, so we set that up for clients.
Okay.
It's so expensive. The whole transportation industry has gone wild.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I think.
Okay, but it is an option?
It is. It's
Okay.
covered. It's covered by the VA, transportation, and by Medicaid,
Okay.
and long-term care
Okay.
insurance.
And then, is there any of those type of benefits that actually cover the
Yes.
the tuition? Is that what you call it?
The what? It-
Is it tuition or just
So-
the, I
Yeah,
don't know
the
what you
daily
call
rate.
it? Daily
Right.
rate, okay.
Yeah. The Veterans Administration covers adult daycare. You have to be in their system with a physician because they develop a plan of care and they let us know how many days they're eligible. Sometimes, depending, I think, on financial, there might be a copay. And then they cover transportation as well. Then Medicaid covers adult daycare. Same thing, they develop your plan of care and contact us. Long-term care insurance companies most often cover adult day. And then Medicare does not at this point. They're talking about it. But Medicare Advantage programs, some of them do cover a part of the cost. So if you have a Medicare Advantage program, always check your benefits. They change year to year. So that's coming up.
Open enrollments right now. We talked about that last month or two. So, okay, thank you so much. So, let's kind of move on to if you have a loved one that needs more care than just a day program, full 24-hour care. So, there's a few options. You can keep them at home and care for them and be a caregiver. There are different communities that offer different levels of living, maybe independent, assisting, and then they may have a memory care option in there. And I know Caroline is here to talk about what is unique specifically about the Barrett Haven Memory Care that she's at. So can you speak to what makes you guys unique?
So, like she said, there's a lot of different levels of care. We are a standalone memory care.
Is it working? Can you hear? No?
Can you hear me okay? No.
Is that better? Speak up a little bit.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. So we are standalone memory care. Everything we do is related to memory care. It is dementia friendly. Our entire building is open to all of our residents. So we're not just a little tiny place at the end of a hallway hidden away. Our beautician is dementia friendly. Like everyone that comes in the building, every volunteer that comes in the building needs to fully understand dementia and how you interact with people that do have it. And so, that alone sets us aside a little bit because I think there's only one other one in the St. Charles County area that's a standalone. And as far as other differences, we have a psychiatrist that visits every month, does face-to-face visits, very important. We don't like to medicate. Medicate is the last thing that we want to do, but it is necessary at certain points of time. There's periods where there's almost too much clarity and you need a little help transitioning into long-term care. Just takes the edge off a little bit. And then there's times later on in a lot of people's journeys, whether it's, obviously there's UTIs like we talked about, and we try to rule out anything physical that might be the issue that's causing aggression and combativeness. And many times it's a staff person, it's a bad chemistry, it's a bad interaction from the staff person, not trying to understand the way that they should, or just not walking away when they should. So we do a lot of staff training related to dementia and how to be proactive and how to be patient and try to get inside each person's head because each person's different, and what are they thinking, and how did they react to that, and what can we do next time that is not what happened this time, you know? So we do a lot of that. In the mornings, we do morning meetings with the staff, huddle groups, and we kind of go over anything, falls or any type of incident. If someone was upset, and we just dig into that, we research each time that it happens and how can we do this different next time. So just lots and lots of staff training. We also are just getting ready to start MANT training with our staff, which is it is MANDT training with our staff. It's like a crisis prevention intervention. It really has to do with the way that you interact with your residents. It's actually amazing for caregivers. If you're a 24-hour caregiver, it's a really great program to check out. They actually do it at St. Peter's, or what's it called? Midwest Mall, right here.
Okay.
There's a girl that does a training there. Usually this has just been used in DMH, Department of Mental Health, trainings of their staff with developmental disabilities and such, but I just see it as a huge benefit to people that work with dementia because it is a little bit similar sometimes. And we, of course, don't restrain people or anything like that, but it's more just your approach to individuals. How do you get them to take a shower? How do you get them to do things that they really kind of need to do, but you don't want to fight about it. You don't want to create a combative, quote unquote, everybody likes to use that word, combative situation where the person is becoming a threat to themselves or other people, and then we have to send them to the hospital, and there's all these, it's never good for anybody.
So Caroline, how many residents, what's your capacity?
So we are licensed for 66 people. We have 47 right now.
Okay, and you talked about it being an open environment, but are there safety measures in place there?
Yep, we have all the doors are secured. They all have alarms on them. Our windows have alarms on them, but you can't see any of this. It doesn't look like a jail or anything.
Okay.
It looks like a home.
That sounds so nice. Yeah.
Yes, meaning that it's going to set off a pager. If a door opens, the pager's going to go off. We actually don't have many residents that want to get out because we are so big. There's plenty of room to walk. There's 2 large outdoor areas that they can come and go as they please. They don't. I know that sounds really bad, but yeah, no. It's for their safety. It's because if they get outside, they're not going to know their way back. They're not going to know where they're at. But
I mean, it's a lovely building and community there,
Yeah.
so I have visited there before. So how about other types of events and activities that you guys have going on there?
we are one of the few memory cares that truly do outings. There's a lot that do drive arounds, but we actually do outings. Some of the ones that we've done in the last couple of weeks are the Chocolate Factory, the Veterans Museum. What do we do this week? Oh, the NOAA, some kind of meteorologist weather place. It's pretty cool. So they did a tour of that and talked to the meteorologists and stuff. And we take as big of a group as we can fit in our van on that day. We do out to eat. We go to Cracker Barrel. That's pretty close. They love that. LB's General Store was another really
Sure.
big
Yeah,
thing.
Winsville. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, we try to limit it. We try to call ahead, make reservations, make sure there's not a lot of people there. So we can keep track of everybody. But, yeah.
So what about programs? Is there any assistance or insurance that covers costs?
Yeah, for financials. Veterans assistance, aid and attendance definitely pays. We are qualified to get that. Masons, if you're a Mason, it's a secret society, but they do help with long-term care costs. I believe somewhat related to the Shriners, but I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Yeah, my dad's a Mason. So, yeah.
It's a good one.
Long-term care policy?
Definitely long-term care. Medicaid, a lot of people wonder this. I get so many phone calls about Medicaid. In Missouri, Medicaid pays assisted livings, any assisted livings, including memory care assisted livings, $292 a month right now, compared to $4,500 plus that you need to pay that does nothing. So Medicaid, if you need Medicaid, the chances are very great that you'll need a skilled nursing home. And they do have memory care in skilled nursing homes. But again, it basically means the doors are secure and it's just a secured area of the nursing home.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, and Anne and Caroline, can you speak to what, as far as costs, can range for adult day services?
Yes, our daily rate is $95 from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. for care, and that includes all meals. So it's a pretty cost-effective means of care when you're looking at private duty, which is about up to $30 an hour.
Or more, yeah, 35, I'm hearing.
What's that?
35, 37.
Oh,
Yeah.
35.
Pushing up to 40 now, yeah.
I know, and when I opened 27 years ago, private duty was expensive. I thought like $15 an hour. Now you can't get a caregiver for $15 an hour. Pay one. So the daily rate's $95, and then we have a partial day rate, 5 hours or less, for $78. And that does include continental breakfast and lunch, or else lunch and a snack. And then Medicaid pays us $2 and I think it's 48 cents every 15 minutes that they're there. So to put that in perspective.
Okay, all right. And Caroline, as far as cost range for memory care?
So we have two options, a shared room or a private room. Our shared rooms, and we do level of care pricing there, so it's based on how much assistance is needed. We do a nurse assessment, it's about 50 or 60 pages long, but basically, do they need help brushing their teeth? Do they need help making their bed? Do they need walk to meals? There's all these tiny little things that we take a look at to see what they need. But to summarize all of that, it's about, for a shared room, $4,500 up to $7,000 per month. And then private rooms start at $7,200 per month.
You're up, what'd you say?
The private rooms.
Oh, private rooms, gotcha. Okay, all right, well, very good. That's all extremely costly, but, all great options out there. So, Ann, as far as the day program, are these typically like people bringing their loved ones because they want them to participate, or because they're still working and they need to have a safe place for their loved one to go to?
Actually, both.
Both,
We
okay.
have both.
Okay.
A good mixture.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
They beg us to be open on the weekends.
You can call us for the weekends. We do respite.
There you go, they do respite there. So, all right, so let's talk about taking care of the caregiver and why it's so important for the caregiver to take care of themselves in addition to the senior they're caring for. So, Caregiver Club, why is it so important for them to take care of themselves, the caregiver?
Right, so the dementia caregiver is usually the sole caregiver for their loved one at home. It's about 80% that you're doing all the work yourself. So the caregiver, it's so important that your mental, your physical, and your spiritual well-being is taken care of, because you are the sole caregiver for your loved one. There's many statistics about about depression in the caregiver. Because of the full 24/7 job, sometimes it's line-of-sight care and you're never off. But if you don't take care of yourselves, you can't be a good caregiver to your loved one. So you really have to take care of yourself, participate in your own life. And I think one of the things that I heard that I thought was really interesting is that isolation does not mean independence. So if you keep isolating and staying home and being on your own, that's not really independence. And as a caregiver, you need to be independent and you still need to participate in your life.
So let's talk about some of the things that your program, if you want to give us any more back history about it, but what your program offers for caregivers.
Sure, so we have 4 programs, kind of things that we run. We have something called a caregiver card, and I'll just show it to you here. We have a lot of these for you guys. If you want them for free, for sure, take them. This is kind of how our company started. My dad has frontal temporal dementia, and taking him out to lunch and dinner was really difficult for me. He was inappropriate. He kind of lost his filter. So anytime I went out to lunch or dinner, it just says, I'm caring for someone with dementia and Alzheimer's. Please be patient and kind. So I hand this out at the grocery store, at the baseball game when I took him this summer because he loved baseball. It just tells your story instantly. It lets people know what's happening, and you don't have to tell your story. And it's amazing, because once you hand it out, people come back so kind and so helpful. Really, as you know, the numbers of dementia are up. Everybody has a story or a loved one or has some kind of relationship with it. So once people find out that my dad has dementia, because he looks like a great 80-year-old fun man, but then sometimes when he says stuff, you're like, uh-oh, uh-oh, get that card in somebody's hand quick. Let him know that he is a sweet, fun man. And it's so important for the caregiver, for me, for my mom, when we started this, to get out. You can't stay home all day. And getting out and participating in your life, like I said, is just so important. So these are our caregiver cards. It's how we started the Caregiver Club originally. And we do have some. If you guys want some, absolutely take as many as you need.
Isn't that an awesome idea?
Yes. Yeah. That was the beginning. That's how we started.
Yeah, and it's really a support and a resource for the caregivers right now. You don't have to wait for the next drug. You don't have to wait for a cure. You can get out of isolation. You can get back into doing things that you love. You can go out to dinner. You can go to a church event. You can go to your grandchild's basketball game and hand it out, and really be back and active in the community and allowing people to understand your situation and giving you the support you need right away. So that was, like Alicia said, that's where we started. We are a registered 501c3, so through the donations that in the sell, we do sell these cards on our website and in the stores. But through that funding, we have started 3 programs. So we have a national respite care initiative, which we offer 3 times a year. So caregivers of individuals with any kind of dementia, that's the only, we have 2 stipulations. One is you do have to be caring for somebody with dementia, and the other one is you have to have not received our funding in the past. But other than that, we don't look at economic status, we don't look at race, gender, or wherever you are in the country. You can be a primary caregiver, you can be a secondary caregiver, you can be a professional caregiver. You can nominate yourself, you can nominate your neighbor, you can nominate your daughter, sister, loved one. You just go on our website. And like I said, there's 3 cycles a year. So in 2024, we will have one at the end of January, then in the end of June and September. In 2023, we gave away almost $15,000 in respite care to individuals across the country. So we really are supporting the caregivers' mental, physical, emotional, and financial well-being. We're hoping to give away almost $18,000 to $20,000 in 2024. So we have the money to give, we just need the people to go out there and nominate individuals so we can give you guys the support you need. And it really is a check for you as a caregiver to use to your discretion to reset your mental health, your well-being. How am I to say what you need? So you can use it for whatever really does reset it. So is it to bring in private care? Is it to get your house cleaned? Is it to bring in meal service? Is it to go out to dinner with your best friend? So whatever that it looks like is for you to use. So we encourage you guys to not only talk it up, but please nominate your friends. And our second program we offer.
Yep. So we also have something called the Caregiver Companion Outings, and those are just local to St. Louis. They're kind of our take on a support group. We keep them small on purpose because we want, we don't want confusion and chaos. So we have about 30 to 40 people, so in kind of packs of 2, we think, because you bring your loved one with dementia on these outings. So we've been to the St. Louis Zoo, we've been to the Botanical Gardens, Grants Farm, we've had dinners at the Women's Exchange. And they're just a really supportive environment, knowing that the people you're with understand what you're going through. Everyone's kind of on that same journey. When we have our dinners, people say, can we pull these tables together? And how'd you get your loved one to shower? How did you handle taking the keys away? It's just really an active way to be out in the St. Louis community with other people who are experiencing what you have.
So Alicia, is this just for the caregivers to attend?
No, it's for the caregiver and your loved one with dementia.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
you come together, and we underwrite all of it. It's all free, so any of our programs are free. We have an educational piece. We always have food, and the only thing that is kind of on you is to get there. We don't provide transportation, so you have to get to our events. But other than that, they're completely free.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and in 2024, we'll have a whole list. If you look on our website, we do ask that you register on our website, not because you owe money, but because we do like to keep them small on purpose, and we will close them when it gets to 30 to 40 people when we feel like we've kind of hit our max number.
So you touched on this a little bit, but to be part of the club, what could someone expect to have to pay to be part of the club?
So there's no money to be part of the club. It's just a cute name, the Caregiver Club. We're all caregivers and we're all together on this journey, and so that's kind of what the club is. Not a membership. No, nothing. We underwrite everything. That's kind of where we are really solely here to help caregivers' mental health and well-being.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for doing that and getting these funds.
Yeah.
And sharing that with
It is super
everybody,
fun.
so.
It really, and then the people that come, all the what do you call them? People that have come and have, talk about our programs. They love them. We have repeat customers all the time. You know, people come back to all of our events over and over and over, which is fantastic. We've gotten to know a lot of the senior community that way. And some of the senior living communities will bring a bus with people on them, and sometimes it's their loved one with dementia, but sometimes it's the professional caregiver from the facility as well, which we love. Any caregiver, we're happy to support.
And then our one program that we just started, our kind of third program that we're of four, is our dementia-friendly dining program. So we, with my professional background, and we've actually just received a $25,000 grant to increase this program, but really working with local restaurants in the St. Louis metro area. So we kind of serve if you're in Cardinal Nation, you're a part of us. If you want to drive, we've had people from Washington. If you want to come to our events, there is no stipulation on where you live to come, but for our dementia-friendly dining program, we're really working with local restaurants. We've partnered with Salt and Smoke, so I know there's one in St. Charles. All the Salt and Smoke restaurants have been trained by us. So it's we do virtual and in-person training for their front staff. We have several videos. So when they onboard front staff, they are really trained in best practices to deal with not only the caregiver but the individuals with dementia. Different communication tips, and placing individuals that say or mention the caregiver club in different parts of the restaurant, so it's a little bit quieter. Those type of things and it's a constant communication and partnership with these restaurants. So we'll continue to grow that program. All of the restaurants will be on our website, so you can go there and you can, again, fighting that isolation, get out, use the cards, getting out of isolation, go out to dinner, have some activity that you're going to a place that supports not only you as the caregiver, but your loved one, and it can be an enjoyable experience. So that's an up-and-coming program.
Yeah,
so
what if somebody has, somebody was talking about like Cracker Barrel doing lunches or dinners or it was you, Caroline, that said, so what if, do those restaurants approach you? Do we nominate restaurants that we say?
So we are always looking for connections with restaurants. So if you know general managers of restaurants, please email us, because we would seek them. So we're seeking them. We're working to standardize that program so it's a little, it's standardized now, but even more professionally standardized, kind of like an ADA certification program. So we're really working to get it to that level of certifications. But if you know of any local restaurants that you love to go to and you know the owner or the managers, please let us know. We would be happy. We go anywhere. We'll have a meeting with anybody.
Any restaurant you want, we're happy to knock on the door
and work on that program and see if they'll work with us. Yeah. So we seek them usually. But if you, like I said, if you guys know places, please reach out. We're happy to facilitate that.
And do you, the two of you just do that, or do you have
Yes, so it's just the two of us. We're the top and the bottom of the company. So we are, you get us when you email the info at caregiverclub.com, or you get us. So yes, we are, this is it. We actually just hired somebody part-time to help us out in administrative work, but it is us. We're coming up on 2 years. So we're really trying to fill that. We know as caregivers, we are caregivers. We know how much help you guys need, and you needed it 6 months ago, yesterday, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And so there's a lot of catch up that we're working on for you guys. And if money fell from trees, we would be able to do a lot more, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So I know there's a big push for places to become dementia friendly, and we have two young ladies here from the city of St. Charles, and city of St. Charles is supposed to be dementia friendly, and there's a big push to educate people and businesses on how to work best practices for working with people with dementia. So
it's a Dementia Friendly America. It's a program, and we've looked into that, making different counties in St. Louis, the St. Louis proper, working on that. And so they're kind of all in the same bucket to really educate servers and staff and people that you come in contact with on your daily basis, your banker, your grocery store attendant. So people, how do we, go to the library? How do you educate not only yourselves, but how do you educate the people that you interact with to understand? Because, you're not necessarily, people with this disease look very typical. They haven't broken their hip, they're not on a walker, they're not in a wheelchair, but they open their mouth and you're like, well.
Yeah.
So, and it's that ability to stay open-minded and stay compassionate it's still a disease, So you don't have to be hooked up to IVs to need assistance.
Yeah, yeah. I know my dad has been diagnosed with the frontal temporal, and my daughter and I were visiting with him. So this was been in the past, but it was a couple months ago, and he told me something that was very uncomfortable. And I said, "Okay, Dad, that's something that we don't." I don't really want to talk about again, so if you can kind of keep it to yourself. I don't know if that was the right way to handle it or not, but it was very uncomfortable for myself and my daughter. And my thought was, oh my gosh, what if we were out in public and he was saying, talking about that with somebody else? So
That's where the cards come in.
I
Hand him a card.
cards are-
Hand him a card.
And it happens all the time, because my dad has frontal temporal as well, and my dad has a thing about tattoos. So anytime somebody comes to our table and they have a tattoo, I'm like, quickly get him the card for one. And then, there's always some inappropriate talking about tattoos. Why would you do that? How could you do that? But that's just part of the disease. And like you said, they all look completely like a just healthy, normal 80-year-old man, but
Yeah,
sometimes
there's no,
that
like you
filter is
said,
gone.
no filter
Right,
there.
filter is gone, so you're
Yeah.
not sure what's going to come out. So
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What about volunteer opportunities with you guys?
Yeah, we do have volunteer opportunities on our events, but we really like to keep the numbers low, so we don't want to have more volunteers than we need. But yes, if anybody is passionate about helping caregivers or coming to our events, you can always go online. We have a thing for volunteers to sign up. But we don't have too many volunteers at each event, because we want to keep it small.
Okay. So is there any, this is just an awesome program. So is there typically for a caregiver and their companion to come, is there typically room, or do you have to turn people away sometimes?
Really depending on what our activity is. Like the Botanical Gardens, we opened it up to more people because we were outside and we knew we had plenty of room.
Mhm.
The Art Museum is, because of the Art Museum, they won't allow more than 12 to 15 people. So it really depends on each program that we're running and where we're going. But we try to, and if it gets big enough, we will add a second day for sure. I mean, if we ever get to the point where we can't, we're turning people away, we'll have the Art Museum 2 days a week and 2 times a month. We do about one
Okay.
program a month, but we would be happy to do two zoo events in the same month if there's the need.
I mean, it sounds just like such a great opportunity
Get out
for people
Exactly.
to
Get out of isolation and know you're with a group of people that really understand.
and safe and comfortable.
Exactly.
And then I
Yeah.
guess the caregivers can talk amongst each other about, have you dealt with this, or what do you
Yeah.
find that works, or
Yeah, it's really a good active support group for them.
that is awesome. Awesome. I mean, I can see that really growing. I mean, in the different areas. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the Symphony, the Muni, the Art Museum. Like I said, there's so many fun places in St. Louis. We're so lucky here to have so many
Oh,
fun places to
absolutely.
go. So even if you guys think of something, we had a sheet we sent out before, and somebody they really want to do an art project. So we're looking at art with a twist, paint with a twist for one of our activities as well, for your loved one with dementia and the caregiver.
Okay, all right. Well, panelists, thank you so much for being here today and all your information and expertise. The holidays are coming up. So what is the way that someone could make the holidays special for someone with dementia? Do you guys have any tips or recommendations?
I know for my dad, I'm going to do a little photo thing for him, because photos really kind of bring back his memory, especially from far back. He can remember a lot of things from far back. So he was in the lumber business, and I found some pictures of his stores and stuff like that. So I'll probably do a cute photo thing for him to try to jog his memory, and of his grandkids. He's got 10 grandkids, so I'll probably have a bunch of pictures and stuff for them this holiday.
Awesome.
I would say really just get out, go to the family events, go to, and we talked the other day about kind of sundowning, that's a whole other talk, but, those type of events are great to go to and socialize and have those conversations when you're out and you're actually having conversations, and they might not necessarily participate, but those are really great cognitive activities for the brain and for you to continue to do with your loved one with memory loss, to keep that brain active and moving, even though it might not seem that they're having a good time, or it might not seem like they're interacting. It is happening. Things are processing. They are, they're taking in all that information. Then there's that point where it was too much. We stayed too long. The stimulation was too much. So kind of balancing, there's obviously a lot of parties to go to, a lot of family functions, a lot of going on between now and the end of the year. And so maybe you know, in the past, you went out every night, and maybe this time, you know, as things go, you can only go out once or twice, or maybe we've do a lunch instead of a dinner because we're worse at night. So I encourage you still to go out and be active with your friends and your family and your loved one, but you know, you might have to be a little bit more accommodating on time of day, on how long you stay, on where you're going, how often you're going. So being open to those changes and those accommodations in order for the whole day and the whole experience to be more joyful, as opposed to push like we used to, and then it ends up, you know, crash and burns. So there is that you know, stay open-hearted and open-minded to the changes that are going on in your loved one, but that doesn't mean shut the door. Yeah.
Ladies, anything you want to?
We have Elvis coming. Everybody loves a dance party. And Santa as well, and with grandchildren, so, because they all love kids. But we always do that for the holidays.
You touched on everything I was going to say. I've made notes on that one, and I was like, she covered it. But as far as what we do at our place, we're doing a breakfast with Santa also, and we're trying to get a live nativity, hopefully. And a couple people I see are on my email list, so you'll know about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anything else you all would like to add, and then we're going to open it up to questions. Okay. Joanne?
This program was absolutely excellent, and I've got all these great ideas to take home, but I absolutely have to tell you that Ann Grooms' program is fabulous. My husband participated in it, Kathy's husband participated in it, and it was a godsend when we needed it, so thank you.
And location, just so y'all know, Piper Hill in St. Peter's. Actually, until I've driven by it a gazillion times because all the doctor's offices over there, and it's over by Villages of St. Peter's, and I'm like, I never knew what it was. And then I was like, that's what they do there. So, okay, thanks for sharing. Yes, sir.
I have, I think the movie 10 years ago, Still Alice, I assume if you were working in that, and 10 years is a long time ago, but I remember Julianne Moore had early onset Alzheimer's. She was a faculty person at Berkeley or someplace, and I remember the neurologist saying to her, you got a smartphone, I think he said iPhone at the time, you got an iPhone that'll buy you 10 to 12 months. I rely on old age more and more on just Googling things, but I find when I grab the phone, it jogs stuff into my memory, and I see a split between people who are technologically trying to keep up and those that aren't. Is there anything that you can do to get people, you know, I got a friend that retired in '97. He understands the internet. His kids gave him an iPhone and he uses it to count from 100 down to 1. He's 92 years old. I said, there's a lot of things here that would help you in your life. Well, I like to count from 100 down to 1. But he's good on the internet because his mind shut off in 1999. What can you do to keep people up technologically? Or is it just not worth doing?
I can add something, I guess. So again, speaking from personal experience, my mother, who worked as a principal secretary and did work on computers and technology and that. After she retired, she was kind of like, I don't want to deal with that anymore, okay? There's a big time lapse there where technology advanced and she didn't. I've talked about this at one of our other meetings. I purchased what we call a gram pad for her, and it has the internet, it has games, it has music. It's designed and it was developed by seniors for seniors. And she's using it now. It's very user-friendly. And there's pictures on there, and there's some controls to keep it safe from scammers and that. So talking to her yesterday, what did she say, Claire? She's like, Matthew Perry. Oh. You were asking her, she's like, Grandma, did you know that, did you hear about Matthew Perry passing away from Friends? And she said, yeah, I went to my grandpad and I was looking that up and reading about it. And I was like, oh, yeah, she's using it. So, that's awesome. So I say sometimes finding tools that are really basic to get them re-engaged, because she hadn't been on a computer in years. But there are things out there. Lindenwood has the WISE program, which is, we've had them in, that they help seniors with technology. Guys, other things?
I would just also encourage, it's scary, it's an unknown, and so I don't, it's I don't want to do something. It's I don't want to learn something new that I don't know how to use. I think that like finding something that they enjoy doing. Is it playing bridge or is it solitaire? Finding something that would excite them to use it.
Yeah, relates to them specifically.
That links to them and their specific, joys and needs.
My my mother-in-law is 94 and she lives alone over in Baldwin, and she has an iPad, and so she plays words with friends. And so every morning I make sure she answers my words with friends, so I know she's up and around and doing her thing. So, and it keeps her going and it keeps her mind fresh.
Yes, ma'am.
I have
Okay.
2 questions, one for Ann. Do you take advanced stage Alzheimer's?
Do you take advanced stage Alzheimer's or
Do you take advanced stage Alzheimer's?
Do I take advanced age Alzheimer's?
Stage.
Oh, stage, I'm sorry. Advanced stage Alzheimer's. Yes, it depends on where they are, but some of our clients aren't verbal, but they still can walk around and function fairly, even though they can't have a conversation or get very confused.
And then I have a question for them.
Can
Your
we
website,
replace
is
the
it .org
beers
or
list?
.com?
Hold on.
medication?
Sorry, hold on. So our website is, and we have pamphlets back there, so you don't have to write it down if you don't, but it's .org. So it's www.thecaregiverclub.org.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Linda?
The beers list and what kind of effect is all of those medications doing to us now? Can any of you have any?
So the beers, the yeah.
BRS list, where the medications cause, those strands to develop in your brain and cause mental decline because you're taking that particular medication.
Yeah, so those, that's out of the scope of a physical therapist's knowledge. So I would recommend talking to your physician regarding the medications you're on, and the interaction that you're having and what you're seeing. And I'm kind of the big proponent of wipe the cabinet into a box and take it to your doctor. Because a lot of these doctors, you go to your primary care, but then he refers you to the neurologist or the cardiologist. Well, the cardiologist gives you a medication that now primary care doesn't know you're on. So take them all to every doctor and be like, this is what I'm having, is, also seeing these symptoms in my loved one, or I'm having these symptoms. Could any of these be interacting with each other?
Specifically, though, there's a list that older people should avoid. Things like insects.
So that's all going to be very specific to you and the other diseases or potentially issues that you have. So it can't be a blanket statement. So what's right for you or not right for you is not necessarily right or wrong for the person next to you. So my father-in-law who had dementia, he could not take Advil or any form of Advil, but he could take Tylenol. But my mother-in-law, who's 2 years younger, she could take whatever she wanted. So it's very person specific. So to make a blanket statement saying you shouldn't take NSAIDs it's too individualized, and you would need to talk to your specific doctor regarding your specific needs.
Yeah. Roxanne?
I just want to say that we participated in the Botanical Garden event with the Caregivers Club, and it was just a wonderful time, and it was really nice to be there together with the group, and you all were great. They had wheelchairs available if it was needed. Everything was anticipated, and it was a warm, fun, enjoyable time. So thank you. And I haven't been able to attend any of your daytime events yet, but I'm hoping that'll work out too. Some
Yeah.
of your educational events look awesome.
So we do a lot of speaking engagements, which we'll all have on. This is the kind of last thing we're doing for the year. Obviously, the holidays are busy for everybody. But we have speaking engagements, and we also have events for 2024, and that'll be up on our website and our newsletter as well. So if you subscribe to our newsletter, that's the best way. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Are there any precursors that cause Alzheimer's besides heredity? And, you know, football players get it because all the injuries. Can you speak, or is there anything that you should be looking at to say, well, you know, we've had this when we were young, and is this kind of a precursor to it?
Are there any precursors to Alzheimer's specifically, dementia?
Well, dementia, Alzheimer's.
Yeah. The only one that comes to mind is, to me, is alcohol-induced. People that drink, people that do drugs. There are those types. I've had a gentleman that we cared for that once he stopped drinking, it actually did get a lot better. But helping those people to not drink again is very, very difficult. So.
And a lot of it has, so brain trauma it increases your risk. Hereditary, it's not necessarily something that's automatic, so it just increases your risk of developing it later in life. After 65, age is the #1 leading risk factor for Alzheimer's and dementia. Just flat out getting older. Can't do anything about it. So there's risk factors that lead to this, but nothing that says, if I had a car accident and a brain injury when I was 16, I'm definitely going to have dementia. There's no correlation, there's no studies out there that can link it directly. It just increases your risk and chance of having it later in life.
There's a good article for those of you that subscribe to the ARP newsletter about super agers, they called them. I don't know if anybody read that. That was quite interesting, but it's more about, and I know heredity, it's not necessarily.
It's not 100%. It's
Yeah.
not, it's all, you know, there's things you can do: sleep better, eat better,
Right.
exercise, you know, challenge your brain, learn new things. All of those things help prevent it. But, you know, my mom was a genius and, you know, super smart, and she still got Alzheimer's. But, you know, so there is they know that these, you know, those type of things, sleep medication, sleep, exercise, nutrition, all do help, but it's not there's no guarantee out there.
Yeah, there's no cure.
There's no cure and there's no
Yes.
guarantee, so.
And
Yeah,
there's
you can just do the best you can.
Yeah.
And that super aging article was really interesting because it did
was.
talk a lot about being mentally active, with whether it's your iPhone, whether it's Mahjong, whether it's learning something new. That they said that is what they found with those super agers was so important.
Yeah.
That they were learning new things and they were always reading and continuing
and working
and
continuing
to work, not stopping.
96
Yeah.
years old and still
Yeah,
working.
because their brain was still active and working.
Right.
So I think that was a huge precursor they were saying too.
Yes, sir.
Somebody came up about 5 years ago with diabetes, or type 3 diabetes is dementia.
Right.
Which scared the hell out of me since I'm a diabetic. Is that a marketing ploy, or is that so right on that everybody with diabetes has type 3 dementia?
I think that was type 2 diabetes. I just know.
Type 2 diabetes.
It was type 2 diabetes, which I'm definitely not a professional.
They call it type 3.
It is. It's people with type 2 diabetes that don't manage it well. This is
Right.
what I've learned from my dad, because my dad has type 2 diabetes, and now
Right.
he has dementia. So I kind of asked that.
Right.
But again, I am not a doctor, but they
Right.
did say, because he didn't manage his diabetes well as a type 2
Right.
diabetic, that this was more likely to happen.
Okay, but whoever came up with the type 3 diabetes is
Right.
dementia scared the hell out of a lot of us. I don't know whether that's just like,
Right.
oh.
I've heard that on podcasts. I've heard some physicians speak to that.
What did
That
they say? That it's overstated, or?
that dementia or Alzheimer's is going to be like the new type 3 diabetes.
Right.
That's kind of what they were relating to because it's getting so prevalent
And it's inflammation.
and diagnosed,
which is,
yes.
I didn't realize how related to Parkinson's dementia was. They kept telling us that our dad was having many strokes, and they were trying to treat many strokes, and I didn't understand. And every week he would end up in the hospital over and over. And it took 5 months for them to say, no, he's got Parkinson's. And his mother had Parkinson's. It was right there in front of us. And of course, it was, at that point, it was too late. But we had no idea Parkinson's, not always.
And I think that, we were at a talk yesterday and a gentleman made a very good point. There's you don't need the diagnosis to know that you need support. So, to get in to see your primary care physician and then to all of a sudden get a referral for a neurologist could take up to 8 months. But your loved one, things are happening, that there's changes in your loved one's behavior, mood, personality, memory. And there's support out there for all of you. You don't need to come to us once you've seen the neurologist. So, take advantage of the support that you have around you and in your community while you're waiting to go see the neurologist. I mean, obviously knowledge is power, and having a diagnosis is helpful to kind of have path and for medication reasons, etc. But you know that things are changing, and to get that support, reach out to your friends. Don't be silent about it. It helps you as the caregiver when you're not silent about it. Alicia and I are big believers in talking about, way back when, people used to whisper cancer in the back room, behind the closet, I have cancer. And now, it's on the billboards everywhere, and people are, all over the place screaming it from the rooftops. And, dementia still has that stigma where you don't talk about it. Oh, my best friend, she has dementia. No, she's got dementia, and your friends know, and they want to support you. Your loved ones know they want to support you. So there's a lot to be said, and a lot of comfort and support comes from talking about it, because the rate of dementia obviously is increasing significantly. So the more so than not, somebody, and your friends know somebody. So I encourage everybody to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah. And this is a little bit kind of off that, but regarding Parkinson's, I know Anne, you led a support group for 20 years, 15 years?
15 years.
15
yeah.
years, so she's very in tune with that, yeah. Ma'am?
So does my loved one need to be diagnosed with dementia to use your adult day services? Have an actual diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's?
In order to use your daycare, do they need to have a diagnosis?
Oh, no, not at all. It could just be somebody that needs socialization or stimulation of some sort.
And
Or lonely, especially if it's a spouse who needs guy friends. There's lots of guy friends that hang out together.
do they need to come Monday through Friday, either the full day or the partial
We
day?
recommend at least 2 days a week, usually the same days, so they get to know the people that are there those days.
And if somebody wants to just come by and visit?
Yes, absolutely.
See what
Come by
you're about?
and tour, and we also offer a complimentary day, so you can come and check us out to see if it's a fit or if you like it.
So one of the things specifically unique, I think I mentioned this in the beginning, about your program, daycare program, is that it is for a certain age and above.
50 and
Not
above. 50 and above. And a lot of adult daycare models, they combine the younger 18-year-old mentally challenged patients with the geriatrics. We only do the geriatrics because we have found those behaviors sometimes are a little upsetting to the older population. So.
Okay, great questions. All right, well, thank you everybody for all the questions. Thank you ladies for your time and input. Very much appreciate it. And then, other resources we just wanted to mention. Memory Cafe, we actually, she could not be here. She's at a Tika Snow convention. But Memory Cafe, we do have one of those here in St. Charles. And that is actually held down at the Boundary in St. Charles. Of course, we got a lot of our information from the Alzheimer's Association. And then there's a Missouri Caregiver program through Aging Ahead. So we have some resources on your handouts that you're going to take. I hope everybody enjoyed this. We're going to next year, for those that are regular attendees, we're going to start putting binders together to give out to you to collect people's information and business cards in. So we are going to have these in January. So we'd really like to know who, to plan ahead to make sure we have enough. So, and please.
New location.
new location, give us your ideas, somebody you'd like to have come back again. I know I went to a Sundowners topic that was wonderful that these ladies put on yesterday, so yeah, let us know. You guys all have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for coming, Miss Roxanne.
One quick thing on Memory Cafe, the four of us at this
Yes.
table go, and we love it. It's great. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to socialize and be with people that understand.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and we'll have her come in again another time as well. So, all right, that's it. That's all, folks. Thanks so